when you have somebody that's almost like you're accountable to them, you have enough respect to them that you want to grow for them, you know, it changes your dynamic of how you deal with things. After a restaurant passes like 7 or 8 years, that's it. They're going to make it for a long time, you know, because they've become ingrained within the community. So I actually didn't know how to speak to people. And if somebody spoke to me without me planning a conversation in advance, I will freeze. I had no idea. Zero. If you have 5 projects, you need to figure out what your dose is in order to move the needle.
Welcome to the Alphapreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Rayhan Aleem, founder of Taxstar and Alpha Pro Partners. Join me on each episode as we talk to inspiring Dubai-based entrepreneurs who share their stories, challenges, and secrets on building world-class businesses. Tarek, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. This is a rare occasion for you to join a podcast, so appreciate it.
Of course, man.
So I'm just going to get into it. Obviously, you're born and raised in Dubai. You have a family of entrepreneurs. I remember you once telling me that your grandfather was an entrepreneur as well. Your dad's an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. What got you into it? I mean, did you have influences from your family? Did you want a regular job? Has entrepreneurship always been something that you wanted to do?
So I think the most important part is from a young age, I was always raised to like think for yourself. You don't need to follow traditional norms. With my dad, I used to watch him just doing his own thing, you know, going against convention, and it worked out for him. So when I was younger, I always had this black swan mentality of like, I don't want to get a normal job. I actually had decided that like 15 or 16. When I was 19 in uni, I started writing like my first business plans for like ideas. Wow. My first business plan was always like this app for personal trainers, because back then I was super into sports and I was just like, hey, I want to do this and I think this is going to work. What are the challenges, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of just got me into that mentality of like, hey, always come up with something new, come up with something different. Yep. And if you can execute it, great. If you can't, it's okay. The time will come, you know? So you could say it started as a young age, from a young age for sure.
And
you know?
what did you do business studies when you was at university?
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in sports management, business management. Yep. And then I moved into nutrition after that. And after that, I got my master's in marketing.
Hence matter nutrition.
Yeah, hence matter, right? So nice. It's kind of like a culmination of all. I was very fortunate. I'm always going to say this, like I have such a supportive family. When I didn't know what I wanted to do, my dad was like, further your education, you know, just focus on that until you kind of figure things out. When I figured things out, he was there to help and support from the beginning, you know, but he also like gave me stipulations on doing that. And that like without that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, you know? So it really, really made a difference.
Yeah. And, you know, entrepreneurship is not easy as well, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got your family business. You could have worked with your family business, but you kind of started on your own, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you could have taken the easy route, but you didn't.
100%.
Tell us about your thought process. You know, how did you feel starting on your own? What kind of challenges did you face?
Let's just start by starting on your own means you know absolutely nothing. Yeah. That's like anyone that tries to start on their own, including myself, always have this idea of like, I know what I'm doing. I'll get through it. The reality of it, you actually know nothing. And everything is much harder, much more difficult, much more challenging than it normally would be with somebody with experience. Like till today, we were just talking about my business partner, you know, off record. Like I still learn about corporate structure from my business partner because I have no idea how that works. Like literally no idea. Tell me the different C-suites there are. I have no idea, you know? So it was very challenging to a certain degree, you know, but I think one of the key things that really, really helped me was I had like support, you know, I had support as well. Like don't get me wrong, there were a lot of things that I didn't have support in. And I think I've mentioned this to you, like, I really wasn't taking much of a salary, you know, I was still living with my parents. I was still trying to figure things out, you know, and my dad didn't have the means to be able to be like, hey, go do whatever you want and I'll pay you whatever you want. Right. So I really, really had to make it work. And you had to, like, I had to be gritty, honestly, like you had to be very gritty, like just make things work. And I think you know this about me, like it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to work until it doesn't work. When it doesn't work, cool, we change it and we move on, you know? I think everybody's very obsessed with trying to be as perfect as possible. And that slows down the process continuously. You know, there's a kind of beauty in imperfection. Yeah,
no, thanks for sharing that. One of the things I also want to kind of point to and, you know, highlight also is mentorship as well. You know, as an entrepreneur, you need mentors to kind of help you
100%.
guide you the right way. And, you know, you've mentioned you've had quite a few mentors in your journey as well. I mean, how important would you say a mentor is to an entrepreneur, and how has it affected you in your kind of journey? Personally,
it changed my life. Personally, without Ala, I would not be where I am, 100%.
Yeah.
I think this idea of thinking that you know it all is actually a very limiting situation for anybody. And when you have somebody that's almost like you're accountable to them, you have enough respect to them that you want to grow for them, you know, it changes your dynamic of how you deal with things. You know, I truly believe that anybody that doesn't have a mentor is missing out.
Yeah.
You know, it's a night and day difference, because you would be arrogant to a certain extent to think that you have it all figured out. You know, you're always learning. There's always somebody better.
I mean, even, you know, with professional sports, right?
Of course.
Even, you know, the elite
athletes,
coaches. They have coaches.
Yeah.
They have mentors, and they have people who they turn to, because, you know, other people can see things differently to the way you see things.
100%. You know, it's a very, very, very big factor. I think also on the mentorship perspective, like without, you know, a lot of people tend to have their own biases.
Yep.
You know, and when you have your own biases, you kind of think everything is perfect. You know, you don't have somebody challenging you. How are you going to be better?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like if you go on a treadmill and you're walking 2 kilometers an hour, you know, and you're like, I'm working out, and you have a personal trainer just pressing it for you, you realize that you can actually go much faster, much harder. You know, mentor, same thing. You know, business partner as well applies the same way. So, yeah.
So you've launched Moonrise, Rascals, Matter Nutrition, you know, some amazing brands in this region in Dubai. Tell us more about, you know, what inspired you to set these up. What was the process? You know, how difficult was it in the beginning? You know, tell us some stories in terms of how you set 3 amazing businesses up, you know, with, you know, as an entrepreneur.
I'll start by saying Moonrise and Rascals are where they are, not because of me. It was because we have a team. You know, the biggest and most important factor that I learned from Matter is in that similar line of having a mentor is you need partners. You know, a partner is somebody that can really push the boundary on one level while you're pushing the boundary somewhere else. To get into the story of all of those, again, relating to mentors, one of the things with Matter Nutrition, when we launched that, we launched it at the right place, right time. Everything was working out perfectly fine. But we made a decision very early on, as a byproduct of a conversation between Ala and myself, like my business partner and myself, that he mentors me, but he expects me to give that back to somebody else. All right. And we also had capital saved from our profits to potentially invest in somebody new if that opportunity arises. All right. So the story of how that led to Moonrise was I met Sulaiman. He happened to be he used to eat my food at the gym. We got along very well.
Nice.
And we started meeting. It wasn't really mentorship in the traditional sense. He didn't ask me to be his mentor, but he would ask me a lot of questions, and then kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Quickly I realized that he will probably be, if not 100%, the best chef in the world. And we wanted to be a part of that, you know? So what that led to is him and I having a conversation, and we put the money in to be able to support him to live his dream. And within 1 year, as you're aware, we got a Michelin star. We have a decently profitable, decently profitable business. You know, it's we're very lucky in the sense that we've managed to do two things that are very hard, which is build a successful brand, but also successful business. You know, a lot of people kind of look at brand and business as separate. You have a lot of times where they are both amazing, but a successful brand does not mean successful business, because they might be very low on cash flow. They might be very tight on many other things that people don't take into consideration. You know, you can have a business like Deliveroo that's doing millions, but they're always raising, or they're trying to raise because their cash flow is tight. Their expenses are very heavy. To me personally, that is not considered a successful business, because there's no money coming out of it at the end of the day for everybody else. Right? So building that balance. What that led to is I met my other partner from 𝗔𝗹𝗽𝗵𝗽𝗿𝗀, and we had a conversation about opening. It was completely his idea of opening a sandwich shop. And ironically, my first business was a sandwich shop. So I kind of had that. I had that in me to want to do something like on a bigger scale. And really what we came to realize is, as three partners, we brought a third partner on board, each one focusing on one thing, worked super well for us. Super, you know, divide and conquer mentality. You know, I do not deal with anything they talk about. They do not deal with anything I talk about. We have complete trust in one another, and we just move forward based against that. And because of that, I feel like it's been quite simple. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's simple. You know, there hasn't been any challenges, so to speak, that people are in complete disagreements, you know? So that's been the biggest positive from my learnings on that, you know? On a personal level, one of the most important things to me is, especially with Moonrise and Rascals, is this is not my ship. I am on that ship, and there's a captain on that ship. I play a support role, and I'm happy to do that. I think a lot of people have this ego of like, oh no, I want to be the main person. I'm happy to not. I'm happy for somebody to be the face of it, to be the one talking about the brand. I just want to be able to play my role, which is help make this real and help make this big, you know?
I think you you underplay yourself. I think because I work closely with you, you actually make a big impact to a lot of these brands and a lot of these businesses as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, obviously, I'm not going to discredit myself and say I don't make an impact, right? I think it would be unfair on me on saying that I don't make an impact, but I know where and how I make the impact. You know, it's about pulling the right lever at the right time. You know, it's about making sure that the decision that you make actually moves the needle. You know, I don't care to make an impact on things that to me don't matter. You know, using Rascals as an example, the brand is 𝗔𝗹𝗽𝗵𝗽𝗍𝗏. 𝗔𝗹𝗽 is the visionary behind that, right? And I will not want to be involved in that simply because I don't know completely what's going on in his brain. You know, he makes a decision, I trust it, you know, and in that same line, Ramiz makes a decision on food, I trust it. You know, I don't want to be that person to have an unsolicited opinion that could cause tension. I think a lot of times problems happen because there is too many opinions and too many people trying to make a decision.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Too many chefs in the kitchen. Exactly. Yeah, it's too many chefs in the kitchen, and people trying to make a decision without really understanding that, hey, do I have the ability to make this decision? You know, do I have the experience to make this decision, or am I making this decision emotionally because I feel like I'm connecting to the brand? you know? It's very simply people trying to make changes or giving opinions on a business they're not involved in, saying, oh, I would change this, I'll change that. But what does that mean? Like the whole business changes, operations change, everything changes.
Yeah. No, on you know, you made a valid point about, you know, one of the things I want to touch upon, what you spoke about was, you know, this concept of when you're starting a business, you know, you can have a family business, you can have your own business without a partner, you can have partners as well. You've seen all of that, right?
Yeah.
You've got the experience to see all of that in your, you know, in your career. Well, what would you say is, what's your preference? Do you prefer having things on your own, a business on your own? Would you prefer having partners? Obviously, you've been in family businesses as well, involved in family business as well. What's your preference and what's your pros?
Definitely not family business. Okay. Let's just start with that. Definitely not family business. Yep. And for me personally, I realize I love to learn from partners. Yeah. I realize I love to work with people because it holds me accountable. Mm-hmm. And on the flip end, again, there's no single person bias. You know, when I was doing Matter originally, every decision was made by me. Mm-hmm. Every decision, right? And that just means that there's a lot of mistakes that come up. You know, you don't know any better. So you say, I'm going to do this because I think it's right. Yeah. You don't realize that you will make a big impact on your business because there's nobody to tell you otherwise, mm-hmm. right? There's nobody to tell you otherwise. So now every decision comes from people that are at least somewhat knowledgeable in their field. You know, when it comes to financial decision making, you know, like even, you know, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but like even when it comes to Moonrise decision making, we get you involved. Yeah. You know, like we don't need to. You're very good at. Pardon?
You're very good in financing.
Yeah, I'm good at it, but I might miss out on something that you see that you can challenge me on. You know, which is, I think, extremely important. You know, I think because it's not about being right. You know, it's about actually getting to the biggest and most beneficial impact for the business. Yeah,
for the greater good.
For the greater good. Yeah. I don't care about being right. I care about, is this for the greater good? If it is, great. Yeah. You know, I'd rather be wrong. And I learned and I understood, you know, you've taught me a lot as well, you know. So that's something I learned from having partners and having a mentor, you know, that I feel like that's the theme. Having a mentor and having partners really gives you a different perspective that you would not have if you are doing everything alone. You know, you're probably watching, like, I use this example a lot. You're either listening to a podcast, you're watching a YouTube video, or you're reading a book, and your decision making for that month is based against what you're listening to, what you're watching, and what you're reading. You know, people will read something and they're like, I love this. Next day they're applying it. I'm guilty of that, right? But there's nobody challenging it if you're doing it alone. You know, same with podcasts. If you listen to something, you're like, oh, I love that. You know, let me launch a business in one day. You know, I'm just using a crazy example. Yeah. But they don't realize what that comes with, and they don't realize what the downsides of it is, because they only heard the positive, and in their mind now it's only positive. It's subjectively positive, not objectively. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, great. I like that. That. I mean, for me, in my business, I don't have partners. I'm doing it on my own. I guess in the beginning, I wanted to do it all my own. Yeah. But 100% agree with you. You know, as you have partners, as you have people who can be a sounding board and you're accountable for it, it helps you make better decisions, and it makes you a better entrepreneur as well.
100%.
So yeah, thank you.
No worries. Just a final note on that, like, there's no right and wrong, right? You not having partners, me having partners, there's no right or wrong. You're not better off or I'm not better off, right? The most important thing is what you mentioned. At the end of the day, you need some sort of sounding board. Yeah. Whether it's your relationship partner, whether it's management team, you know, whatever that looks like, that will eventually help. You know, and I'm sure like you made certain mistakes along your way, you know, and and you learn from them, right? you learn from them,
Yeah.
but you also have a learning capacity to be able to say, I made this mistake, I'm not going to do it again. Some people don't, and then they don't realize why they're struggling.
Yeah.
You know, so because they also don't have partners potentially.
So in Dubai, you know, there's a lot of F&B brands that come and go. You know, I've been here for 8 years. Obviously, you've been here longer. And in my 8 years, you know, I feel as if the life cycle of an F&B brand is between 3 and 5 years. You know, something new starts, and then everyone's, you know, going to that place and it's really busy. And then after a few years, it kind of drops off, whether it's competition, whether because they have the wrong cost structure or they're not profitable. In your opinion, for an F&B brand, what would you say is the average life cycle in Dubai?
3 to 5 years.
Okay.
You know, I think you're spot on 100%. And you're also pretty spot on a high level, like why does it not last, right? Yeah. I think with Dubai specifically, you have way too many brands coming up all the time, right? But also at the same time, the reality of it, Dubai is a very new city.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of new coming out. There's a lot of novelty coming out. There's a lot of consistency in brands coming out. But that means that people can make it really big in the beginning, but within a year, somebody is like, they're doing well, I can do the same thing, you know? They copy them, they do something better, you know? And that brand all of a sudden is irrelevant because there's somebody newer, flashier with probably a better product, you know? But also within that, within the food cycle, there's been a lot of changes that happen in Dubai. So call it even 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, realistically. 10 years ago, we had only brands from abroad. We were importing brands.
Yeah.
Then you have this restaurant called 𝗷𝗂𝗀𝗄𝗏 that popped up.
Yeah.
Great branding, great restaurant, ticked off a lot of boxes. Okay. That was like the first true homegrown brand. Okay. That was 10 years ago. They have now like 15, 20 restaurants. They're doing amazing, right? Yeah. After that, so that was the first push into slight casual eating, cafe culture, casual eating, because it's easier to do in food. From there, you have all these new brands that come, you know, they're competing with the 𝗷𝗂𝗀𝗄𝗏 and all that, you know, people tend to go towards the ones that they're comfortable with and all that. After that, you had this new wave of homegrown fine dining, which we were a part of. We are a part of, right? Homegrown fine dining. There was Oceano and Trescent, you know, that's considered, and 𝗆𝗄𝘅𝗄𝑐𝗍𝒄𝑖 that were considered homegrown fine dining, even though 𝗆𝗅𝒄𝑖 is like a brand from outside or a business from outside. You had this mentality now of people that trusted the cafe casual scene. They went into, oh, somebody's doing it from Dubai and they're experimenting. Let's try that.
Yeah.
And you have this new wave, you know? Are all the brands in fine dining going to last? Probably not. You know, they probably won't last. And then finally, you have now this new wave again of good food in a casual manner.
Yeah.
You know? And these are all like, this isn't the reinvention of the wheel. Like, this is literally what happens in New York, what happened in London, you know? Like, it's very normal to have that, you know? So like, you have places that are offering incredible product, but it's a casual product, you know? And now it's accessible to the masses, right? The issue that you have from an F&B perspective is if you're not the very best of the best, your novelty will wear off. You are the best of the best. You need to be consistently innovating, or else your novelty will wear off, because there's so much money in the country. There's so many people being able to do the same thing, you know? F&B is very notorious for having chefs move from one place to the other, staff move from one place to the other. So tomorrow you might have somebody that leaves 𝗔𝗍𝗽𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗀 you know, and he's a chef at 𝗔𝗶𝗄𝗏 and opens his own thing, you know. That's literally actually what happened. You know, it was a very simple real life example of that.
Yeah.
You know, and this can apply in every single restaurant, you know. So if somebody leaves Rascals and they go to a competitor who's interested in opening a sandwich shop, they have they literally have our blueprint from A to Z.
Yeah.
They can copy it and make it their own. There's nothing we can do about it. You know, so F&B is hard from that perspective.
You mentioned obviously the you know, being the best of the best. So as an F&B brand, what are the key pillars you would say, in your opinion, that you'd need to be on top of to ensure that you're continuously, you know, reinvigorating your brand, you know, keeping the brand fresh?
Look, the one thing I can say is product, marketing, consistency, right? Your product needs to be incredible. Your marketing needs to be always on top of the game. You need to always be on top of people's minds, and you need to be consistent in what you do, right? I have to also be very frank that Moonrise and Rascals have been in the market for a year and a half.
Yep.
You know, so it's a year and a half to 2 years each, right? So it's not enough. Like, we haven't passed the. There's also this theory that after a restaurant passes like 7 or 8 years, that's it. They're going to make it for a long time, you know, because they've become ingrained within the community, you know. But that might change in Dubai, because also in Dubai, you have so many new people moving in all the time, you know, so you might be relevant.
As well, right?
Pardon?
You have delivery as well.
Yeah, you have delivery as well, Deliveroo as well, you know, like, but like the one thing for Matter, like, we've been a business for 7 years, you know, profitable for 7 years. So 6 years and a half. What kept that going is every 3 years we're bored and we reinvent ourselves. You know, like, actually today we reinvented ourselves as of today. Like, we do that every couple of years because it does not make sense otherwise. You know, people will get bored. People, you know, competition is going to come. Competition is going to come. Like, you know, there's going to be sandwich shops. There's going to be specialty sandwich shops that are going to open.
Yeah.
There's going to be somebody doing the exact same thing as Moonrise, but doing Middle Eastern Italian food. You know, like, there's always going to be something. So you just need to be consistently reinventing yourself. And how you reinvent yourself, that's up to you, you know. But the client needs to see, like, oh, they have a new story to tell. I'm interested in that. Yeah. I want to see what that's about. Yeah. You know, I think that's the most important part. You know, like,
you know, launched 3 successful F&B businesses. To some of our listeners who, you know, they aspire to set up their own restaurant or, you know, sandwich shop, you know, they might be working.
Not a sandwich shop.
They might be working full time in a job, and they want to start their side hustle, or maybe they want to start their own Michelin star restaurant, which is quite difficult. What would be your advice to that person who, you know, usually when you're, I mean, I know because I used to be an employee, right? But usually as an employee, your first idea is to set up a restaurant, right?
Yeah,
that's what everyone does. So for the aspiring entrepreneur who wants to set up an F&B, what kind of tips would you give them?
Are we starting from scratch, like zero?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So definitely don't open a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's way too many. Number 2 is, if you're planning on launching a restaurant or a product or a business in F&B, you need to really, really, really pin down your product, right? If your food is not impeccable or at least incredible enough, you're wasting your time, right? That's, to me, the most important thing. Number 2, you need to vet that. If you think your food is good for you. If the customer doesn't, you're not going to have a business, right? There's many restaurants that I hate that people love, and they're packed all the time. am I wrong or am I right? It doesn't matter. They're busy, right? So you need to vet that. And your best way of vetting that is to do pop-ups. You know, you need to test in the market and see how people react in the market.
Yeah.
Right. And the third thing, which I think is more a long-term for F&B, which you and I discuss all the time, you really need to understand your cost structures and your cash flow structure, right? You really need to be able to maintain a business, you know, because food is, yes, a heavy cash business, but it's also very low in the profit margin perspective in comparison to other businesses, right? So you might be grinding to sell and you're packed, but you end up making very little profit, you know? So you need to understand what that looks like and make changes accordingly in order to be able to survive for the long run, you know? This is like an underlying aspect of a food business beyond product, you know, product marketing and consistency. That is your life and death. That's your cash flow is your, like, you know, your lifeline, you know? So it's a very, very, very important thing.
Just going more into the product, obviously you mentioned it should be impeccable, but this doesn't matter whether it's, you know, a sandwich shop or, you know, high end or mid range, right? In terms of the product, what else could you, what other, how can we go a bit more deeper into that? So for example, we're talking ingredients, or we're talking how it's presented?
How it tastes at the end of the day, how it tastes, how it's presented, of course, right? But does it need to be a specific product? No, it's what you want to do. You know, like everything's been done before, right? If you want to place your bets in a positive light, you know, or you want to hedge them correctly, you're going to do a burger, a pizza, you know, Italian restaurant, right? But if it's something that's unique, you need to vet that first. If you open a restaurant that only sells, I'm just using this as an example, pani puri. It only sells pani puri. How are you going to bring in enough people? You know? So it needs to be amazing, first of all, that makes them want to come back. But that's when you then have to focus on your marketing, you know? And then if you have enough people coming consistently, you need to make sure that's consistently amazing for making people want to come back and refer their friends, you know? I don't have data on this, but it is very interesting for me to know, is like different restaurants have different repeatability. There's some restaurants that people go eat at 3 times a week. There's some restaurants that people eat at or order from every night. You know, there's some restaurants that people go once a month, once every 3 weeks, you know, like, and that also plays a role in repeatability, you know, because I'm using this example as a Tasha's, they figured out their formula to have very high repeatability, you know, and they have, their product is great enough that you don't think, oh, I'm going to Tasha's, it's going to be a bad meal. You're like, I'm going to Tasha's, I'm going to have a good meal. It's not the best in the world, but I'm having a good meal in a good setting. I can bring my family, I can bring my girlfriend, I can bring my sister, you know, whatever that looks like. So I'll go there consistently, you know. So when you don't know where to go, you say, I'm going to go to Tasha's, you know. Whereas a Moonrise is a once every 6 months kind of thing, once every 5 months kind of thing, or once a year even, you know. So it's very different, but it also, like, for each different business, it doesn't matter which part it's in, as long as you're aware of it, you know, as long as you're aware that at a Rascals, I'm expecting the customer to be eating a Rascals once to twice a week max, you know, because it's a heavy sandwich, you know. Matter.
Beautiful sandwich, by the way.
Pardon?
Beautiful sandwich.
Thank you. That's all ramens, literally all ramens. Matter, they're eating it 4 times a day. Very different. So it all depends on what that looks like.
So as an entrepreneur, networking is super important, especially if you want to get business through the door, you want to raise capital, you know, you want to build a network of influencers. You seem to know the who's who, yet you don't really do much on social media, right? You don't really have an online presence. How do you approach networking? How have you maintained those relationships? You know, I knew you through a few of my clients.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dubai is a small place, but for me, you seem to know pretty much everyone in Dubai. What kind of tips can you give entrepreneurs, and how has it made an impact for you?
So I'm going to start from the beginning and why I became good at networking. I had really bad social anxiety. I don't know if you know this. I had really bad social anxiety. So I actually didn't know how to speak to people. And if somebody spoke to me without me planning a conversation in advance, I will freeze. I had no idea. Zero. What I ended up doing was I started putting myself in positions to hang out with new people. And I still do this to this day. It's going to sound crazy, but it's going to sound sociopathic, you know, but this is what I do. I plan conversations in advance with absolutely everybody I meet. So I literally know, to a certain extent, I know the direction of conversation I want to go without like now I do it subconsciously, but before I used to write it down. Like, I'm going to ask them this question. I know this about them. I'm going to bring it up, you know, I know they're interested in this. I'm going to talk about that, you know.
It's an amazing tip, by the way.
I think it's great. And I think it's like a way to build a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
Even if personally at the time I didn't do it to build that connection. I just did it because it forced me to put myself out there and talk to people. Right. Now, how did that lead into the network effect? When I first started my first business, like my first real proper business that blew up, Matter, I had a goal that was very simple. Meet 3 to 5 new people every single week. Okay.
It's a lot of hard work.
If I show you my calendar, I'm back on that now. If I show you my calendar, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. But meet 3 to 5 new people every single week. Now, it is hard work, but also you also need to be a very kind, honest, generous person, because then it becomes natural to people to say, hey, I think you will vibe with this person. I think you should meet them. Or like recently I started doing that again, and I had no issues asking, hey, is there anybody interesting you think I should meet? Literally anybody. I messaged my mentor. I messaged 2-3 people that I know. Connect me to anybody interesting that you think I should meet. Simple as that. I asked a friend, introduce me to somebody. I don't care who. Introduce me to one person. He introduced me to a lady, sat with her. I went into that meeting with no intention, ironically. I was just like, hey, I want to build a connection with you based on that skill set I've built, right? Yeah. I just built a connection I know she likes hiking, she likes mountaineering. I asked her all the right questions, right? At the end of the meeting, she was like, she found out what I do, blah, 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 you know. She's like, oh, there's somebody I think you should meet. Met them. Nice. The following week. I met that person, again, just vibe, no real intention. Oh, I know somebody who I think you should meet.
Yeah.
Met 4 people just by asking one person, you know. That's it. You know, like literally I've asked one of my business partners, hey, introduce me to anybody you know in the fitness industry. I don't care who it is. I'm now working with one of the people that she introduced me to.
Nice.
You know, it won't hurt to ask, you know, even to the certain extent. I've asked you, you've introduced me, you know, like there's nothing wrong with asking. I have this conversation a lot with other people. Like sometimes people want to approach something purely with an intent. Yeah. Your intent needs to be, let me build a human connection. Can you be friends with this person? If you can, great. You know, then it becomes much easier to get your asks. Yeah. You know, if you have any. But that's how I built my network, man. You know, it's that simple. But also remember, I've been doing it for 7 years. So imagine for the first year and a half, I met 5 new people a week. That's 250 new people.
And then
That's 250.
250 people have a network of what? 100, 200, 300?
There you go. That's how it spreads, right? And also it's different opportunities. Like it's gonna, again, there's a right place, right time to do it, right? But if you see somebody at a coffee shop and you see them 3 days in a row, say hi, nod your head. Literally, like it's that simple. Like nod your head. If you want to network, like you don't know what they do. You have no idea. Just let them tell you what they do. It might be interesting to you. They might know somebody that could be of interest to you.
Yeah.
Because of what you're doing. So I think it's a very, very, you're not better than people. Like that's the mentality that I have. You're not better than anyone. Just meet everybody. Everybody can offer you something that you do not have. Simple as that.
I mean, I have a good example. I have a friend of mine. He travels a lot. He's got a successful business, and he can do that. And I think he was in a hotel, and there was a young family, and their kids were crying, and him and his wife went to that family, and said, "Look, let us help you out. You seem quite busy. You've got kids all over the place." So they kind of, built that connection. Afterwards, that family was like, "Thank you for helping us. This is my number." And then they got into contact, and it turns out that family, he was also an entrepreneur that exited a business, and he ended up investing in my friend's business of around 1.5 mil. And that's just because, they just they were in the same hotel. Kids were, kids were screaming, and, they've had a young family before, and they just went and helped out, and that's it.
That's how it works. By being kind, like my most recent project, which is a new restaurant, it moved forward because I've kept a good, honest, genuine relationship with somebody that I've known since 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
Simple as that. Like I've known him since 7th grade. We've done small projects together, fun projects, nothing crazy. And when the opportunity arose, like he's seen that what I've done, he's like, "Hey, let's work together."
Yeah.
That's it. Simple as that. 7th grade. Like it's not like a more recent connection, so that it really does play a role. It really does like being kind plays a role. Also being an asshole plays a very negative role. I don't know if I can swear. Okay. Also being a bad person plays a very, very, very big role because Dubai is very small.
Yeah.
So Dubai is very, very small. People will talk, people will know.
I mean, one of my experiences, I've been here for 8 years, you've been here longer than me, but you do come across a lot of like people who are not nice. And it's very rare. I think you're a gem, right? I think there's not many people out here like you. And the more of people like you here, the better. But sometimes there is that kind of mentality where it's short-termism, where you're just trying to screw someone over, or you're just trying to bulldoze over someone else just to kind of get your point across, or get your kind of initiative in place. And I think I try to be as nice as I can whenever I can, and I find that in the long run you get a lot of benefit off the back of that. And I think, yes, there are individuals who do win short term, but long term I don't think they're going to be able to sustain these things going forward. And you also have to think about your mental health as well. If you're an a-hole all the time, that affects you as an individual as well. Whereas if you're like a giving person, you want to help benefit others, it not only helps them, but it also helps you as an individual as well.
I agree completely, man. I agree completely. I think short-termism is a big thing in Dubai because it is a very transient place as well, right? But it will never hurt being kind in the long run.
Yeah.
It will never hurt. It will always come back to you by being kind in the long run.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And I'll continue to do it. I don't care. I've been burnt before, but I don't care. You know, so
Tarek, you run multiple businesses. You know, congratulations.
Thank you.
Running one business is hard enough, but you managed to manage multiple. Is that something that you've always wanted to do? What kind of advice can you give to other entrepreneurs? I know you mentioned before that you work with partners as well, and I guess that can help, but that can also be quite, can be a bit of a hindrance as well. So how do you manage, you know, managing multiple businesses, and what kind of advice can you give on that?
So the reason why I personally got into the idea of doing multiple businesses is because I personally get bored. Simple as that. Is there a right reason, wrong reason? No. I just get bored and I want to try something new and I want to do something different with a different kind of challenge. Simple as that. The advice that I would give to others is related around two things. Number one, definitely have partners, because they will hold you accountable. You running 5 businesses yourself is very difficult than you running 5 businesses with 10 other people, right? So they will definitely hold you accountable from that perspective, and you will have sounding boards and whatnot. And the most important thing with managing other businesses, like managing multiple businesses with partners, in order to avoid hindrances and in order to avoid conflict, in order to avoid challenges, is to be as honest as possible. Yeah. To be as transparent openly. If you believe that you cannot do something, you know, you need to voice that. You know, like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, I had voiced these last 2 months, I need to focus on something else. And I had voiced that in advance. And, you know, my partners could have easily said, hey, no, we want you to be in the business. Like, there's no need. We want you to be in the business because 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And I would have had to figure that out. But I'm very lucky that we've always had a transparent, open, and communicative like partnership. They were like, cool, no worries. You do that. We'll handle it. And I haven't looked at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏s for 2 months. So I'm focusing elsewhere, right? Now, the other point related to that is if you have 5 projects, you need to figure out what your dose is in order to move the needle. And you need to have enough of a strong team to continue to move that needle every single day. Yeah. Right? So your role is to give them that really big push, and they need to continue with it. Because you can't be doing everything yourself. As you know, from running one business, you need to worry about so many other things. Yeah. So delegation is very important. And within delegation, you need to be able to say, hey, this is the direction we're going. You need to be thinking more strategic as opposed to applying tactical, you know, daily things. Yep. You think of the strategy. You really figure out the roadmap, while the team is the one doing all the tactical stuff in order to get you there. And you watch. If the needle moves, great. If the needle doesn't, then you come back and you say, hey, what can we do to change that? You know? Yeah. But your time is obviously much less if you're working on 5 projects. So you need to figure out also how to split your time. Is there a correct formula? No, I'm still trying to figure that out, to be very honest, right? But what I'm finding that works best is, hey, for 2-3 months, I'm going to work on this, with these 2 being on the side. You know, for 2 months, I'll work on this, with this being on the side. You know, it just like, that's the way for me right now that seems to be working best. But also being constantly in tune and checking in is also very important. You don't want to just leave a business. You know, like just because you're focusing on something else, you don't want to just leave your other projects. Yeah. You know, another piece of advice that I would give is, when it's a new project, allocate 3 to 6 months for it. You need it to grow. Allocate the time for it. It's a baby, you know? You need to treat it like it's your only business to a certain extent. Yeah. But you need to have the infrastructure with your other projects to make sure that they can handle them. I've learned a lot from doing this multiple times now. And that's a big learning that I had. You know, I need to have a team in each project that if I'm not there, they're able at least to maintain. Because then I can come back to do the next push, you know, but obviously I can't do that push alone. They will help.
So Tarek, before we wrap up, you know, what kind of projects are you working on currently? I know you mentioned you've got 5 businesses that you're running or working on right now, but I'm sure there's more on the horizon because you did say you get bored, right? So what are you working on at the moment? And if the audience wants to get in contact, what's the best way to get in contact?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Appreciate it, man. But the latest projects are to do with a restaurant.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not going to call it a project anymore because the biggest baby that we have, or biggest child, is Matter. And we're focusing on reintroducing and introducing new products through that.
Oh, nice.
So that's going to be it has been a big project we've been doing through a lot of research and development and product testing, specifically for athletes. So that's something that's coming up very, very, very soon.
So if you're an athlete and you want good food, go to Matter.
More than food. That's what we're moving into. So that's going to be very exciting. And the best way to connect with me is always through email. You know, happy to connect with absolutely anybody. I'll leave my email in the, you know, in the comments or bio, you know, and whoever wants to email me, I'm always open for that.
Nice.
Thank you so much, man.
No, thank you, Tarek. It's been a pleasure.
I've
learned so much from you.
Thank you.
You are an amazing entrepreneur and human being.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Alphapreneurs podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and a review. Your feedback is appreciated. For show notes and more, check out the link in the description and connect to me directly on LinkedIn and search for 𝗷𝗂𝗵𝗽𝗶𝗀𝗀. See you in the next episode.